What's up, dudes? Welcome back for another album review. This one, of course, is to the latest release from EXID called Eclipse. And like with this video, of course, I've basically covered their promo song, Night Rather Than Day, and the album in basically every sort of direction I possibly can as far as my discussion of it. But I do think that, of course, it's really, at least for me personally, and just what I think about it and why I think this album is just generally significant for this group as a part of their career. I just got to talk about it so much because it's just, maybe I'm just repeating the same stuff pretty much constantly over and over, but I mean it still is like significant for this group, I have to say. So before we get into the album review though, I just want to remind you guys here that the community that I'm trying to build here and what I'm trying to do with this video specifically, right, so we can have a little discussion about the topic of the video in a respectful manner down in the comments below. So if that is something that you wanted or you are interested in, have a little friendly discussion with people even if they have opposing viewpoints, then click on that subscribe button right down there so you can become a part of the community. So with that being said, let's get into the album review. And I just want to start off and say that, and give some props and some, 2 thumbs up at my support and approval for the fact that the promotion song, right, Night Rather Than Day, is an accurate advertisement and portrayal of what you're going to get in the album. The rest of the songs in the album tie into the vibe of that song very, very nicely. And, that wouldn't normally be something that I pick out as a, point of praise or anything that I think is significant, but considering that I listen to a lot of music and I listen to like just about every single album that gets released, at least once, I do notice a lot of times that, in one way or another, what the promo song is that they use, or what the song is that gets used to promote the new albums for groups, isn't necessarily an accurate representation of what the sound and the genre of the album is going to be. And, it's not necessarily misleading, but of course, you go in like, I really liked that song. And then when you get into the album and it's something completely different, then you're not really a big fan of it. And I don't really know what the reason is for that, because I would think that like, if you advertise one thing and then you give somebody something else that's not good, right, that honestly makes them less likely, I would say, to enjoy your album and of course buy it in the future or buy it after they've listened to it a couple of times. But if they go in like with this one, listening to Night Rather Than Day, and then what the rest of the album sounds like is very much similar to Night Rather Than Day, then you'd be like, I dig this. I like the overall feel and the vibe of this album, and they're much more likely to buy it, after listening to it for once or twice, instead of being caught off guard with what the content of the album is, and then being like completely turned off from any sort of interest in that. So I think it's not really like significant, and it's not something that like happens crazy frequently as far as K-pop albums, but I do know that it's, at least for me, frequent enough that I just got to give EXID and Banana Republic, right, or whoever, I don't remember, some props for at least doing that. And of course, it does just lends itself to having a nice flow as far as the track listing from start to finish for the album too, which I think, me personally, is kind of important, because I kind of view listening to an albums as like going through a journey or telling a story in some way, kind of like that. But that's whatever. And the only thing I guess that you might consider to be false advertisement, although not necessarily, is that I would say that Night Rather Than Day is the most energetic feeling song. At least to me it is, because I know that I'm drawing a blank on what the other song was, because I didn't actually write it down, because I didn't think it was going to be relevant, or that I didn't think that I was going to want to actually say it. But the song that follows also quite, upbeat, and that, although not crazy, which I guess you could say would be on a same level, but it's a completely different sort of sound and feel and presentation to Night Rather Than Day. But overall, right, I'm absolutely loving this album, and just how different it is as far as the sound and style and all that stuff in regards to the just general K-pop scene. It is definitely something that is not taking the the tried and true formula to success. It is not really following what the trend in K-pop is necessarily, and I think that's definitely really great. And once again, I have to give the company some props for that, because like it's like they could have just pumped out another album or another song that followed whatever formula they found works for the group, or whatever producers and all of that stuff, like industry wide, have found out is a pretty decent and reliable way to sell albums. But I decided we're going to go with something a little bit different. We're going to give Ellie, I guess, some creative freedom in producing and writing these songs, and you've got something that is really, really, really interesting. And overall, I would have to say that in whatever albums I would take that I've listened to this year, and if I were going to group some into like just the most unique sounds that I've heard all year, I would definitely put this album in that group with the others, as like this is one of the most unique sounding albums in all of K-pop. It stands apart from like all others. There are no others that are similar to this, and that in and of itself, I think, is really, really significant. And of course, it's actually significant for the group because they've gone away from the cookie cutter sort of sound and visual style that they've developed and that they've relied on to sell since Up and Down went viral and all that stuff. So it's been nice. LIE was different, although I think the song was not very good in comparison to some of their others, and of course this one. But that was a little bit different visual style, not super crazy changed, but this entire experience here is definitely very much different from from what they've been releasing the last 2 or 3 years, and definitely, of course, different from what they've been doing as a debut group. So we're in another chapter or another era of this group's career, I would say, as far as stylistically, when it comes to the sound of their music and the visual style of this group, which that's significant to take note of, I think. So that's really that, as far as just like why I really like this album. And it's really just because it's different, and they're bringing some new and unique sounds with basically every single song. Like every single song they tried something different, and I think that it turned out really, really nice overall. It was a really good, very interesting album to listen to. You got some solo songs, which I think is not pretty typical, but it seems to becoming a very popular thing these days with the girl groups, is that you're gonna give some solos to a couple members of the group. In this instance, it's like the two most popular members in this group. You got Hani, who's got Woo Yu, which is, I guess, really just kind of like the typical thing for her. Is gets her the opportunity to show off her vocal abilities a little bit, solo without anybody else, without having to share the stage with anybody else necessarily. And then you've got Velvet, which is a song for LE, which is, I guess, perfect for her in a way. But the one thing I got to say about this song, though, is that during the choruses, the tone and stuff of her voice that I was really like saying was not really the best fit to be included in the song, in a song Night Rather Than Day. It's not really there, especially in the choruses of this song. And the more that I listen to it, it's really probably just because the tone and just the sound of her voice is kind of being covered up a little bit, or obscured by harmonizing vocals that are also being sung at the same time. But I don't know. But whatever was going on with that stuff during the chorus, I think would have been a much better fit for Night Rather Than Day. It just sounds much smoother and much nicer compared to, I guess, her natural the natural sound of her voice. Not really knocked and saying that I hate her voice, because her voice is definitely cool and unique, and it's really, really awesome when she does the raps and all that stuff. But in Night Rather Than Day, it wasn't good. It wasn't my favorite. I think it could have been better if it was much more smoother than her voice normally is. So that is that. So overall, my rating on this album, as I do with every album review, is going to be whether or not I would spend my money on this, and whether I would suggest you buy your money or spend your money on this. And you know, I have to say that this certainly is, you know, above all other albums from this group that they have released. Like, this is the one that I would like to own, physically own, and put on that bookcase back there myself. Like, this is the one, especially the one that I want the most from the last few years, you know, because not only is the promotion song something that I'm, you know, in love with, but every other song on there I think that I'm equally in love with, you know, from start to finish. You know, every single song on this album is excellent. They're new, they're unique, they are, it just is a really, really great experience. It's hard for me to pick my favorite, but, you know, depending on the way that I feel, of course it could change, but, you know, I just have to say that maybe I lean more towards the solo song for Hani as being my favorite song. That might be the one, but of course, like I said, it kind of depends on how I feel. So that's all I got to say about this song, about this album, I should say. My album review for this latest album from EXID. I like it. I hope they continue with doing stuff like this, or just doing new experimental, just experimenting with their sound a little bit more. I really hope that they take that direction in the future. So that's all I got to say. Now I'm going to turn it over to you to tell me what you think about this album. Down in the comments below, share your favorite songs and why, share your least favorite songs and why, you know, down in the comments, and we're going to get a discussion going down there, hopefully, and it's going to be friendly, because that's what I'm encouraging, where we have a little, you know, respect for people's opinions, even if we do not agree with them. So if that's kind of a community and a discussion that you want to be a part of, then hit that subscribe button. So like I said, you can join the community and become a part of the discussion. So that's going to be it for this video. As always, I want to thank you for watching, and we'll see you all next time.